Hola, niños y niñas, and welcome to another edition of the Bleed Los podcast. We're live this week, but if you're listening to us in the future, thanks for joining us in the future since we're in the past. But this episode of the podcast is presented by our partners at BetOnline. BetOnline remains your number one source for all of your betting this season, and you can get all your analysis of every play, prop, and points at BetOnline. You'll find all the latest odds, team matchups, game trends of all kind over at BetOnline. If you head on over there, they'll have updated odds from everything for live games, MMA, MLB, everything going on right now. NBA playoffs, of course. Lakers lost tonight, so pain. But you can find all that over on betonline.ag. If you head on over to their website today and use either your computer or your mobile device to sign up, you will receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just make sure to use our promo code, which is BELIEVE, BLEAV, to receive that bonus. BetOnline AG, where the game starts. If you're joining us live, you see that this gentleman here is Alicia Del Valle did not drastically change. Pinch hitting for ADV is friend of the Canasada, Jason Barquero. Jason, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How's everyone else doing?
Aside from the Lakers losing and the homestand being sus, I'm doing okay. But if you're joining us, chime in. I know we have the regulars that show up, but we always love your input. I wanted to start with the homestand for the Dodgers, not for the Lakers, because the Lakers on the road. Pain also 2-4. We talked about it, Juan. The bumps are starting, and as we talked about too, the bumps were going to start early. I just kind of wanted to hear from you for starters. How did you feel about the homestand? I mean, you were there a couple times too.
Before I go into my thoughts on the homestand, I do want to give our friend Jason a point, because when Jason was on the show last time, Jason said in regards to the beer sales and the pitch clock, he was the first person that I heard it from. Jason said that, if these owners start losing money in the beer sales, if they don't start making, enough money on those beer sales, that the pitch clock would disappear. Well, we already have seen some teams have extended their beer sales into the eighth inning. So, yeah. Jason, congratulations. You get yourself your first Bleed Lows point. You're on the board now.
There we go. Thanks for the props. I appreciate it.
Okay. So, the homestand was rough, but I keep telling myself that this is, we're still not even a month. And I heard this a lot from some of the players. While I was there, Freddie Freeman was saying, hey, it's only been 15 games. Now it's what, maybe 18 games. So it is far too early in the season to panic. But one of the things that does concern me about this team is the injuries. And I do think that we underestimated. I thought at the beginning of the season that the Dodgers could overcome the Gavin Lux injury, but it turns out that when you're not even a month into the season and you're already on your fourth or fifth string shortstop, I don't know any organization that could overcome that has that level of depth at shortstop or at any position. So it just could be that the injuries are just too much to overcome, because we already have Buehler that's out. It's going to miss the season. Lux is already going to miss the season. Miguel Rojas is just gone onto the injured list. So these are the aspects of baseball that people tend to forget, that it's important health wise. So that to me is what's concerning. Is what's obvious is the depth is not there as it was before on a team like that. So that it's been a rough, and it hasn't even been that bad because they're only like one game under 500, right? The problem is, as Dodger fans, we're not used to this. We're not used to it being like this. Now, there have been seasons where they have started off very slow, and this is the reason why I'm not writing them off this year, because they end up, when the summer starts, they end up going on this ridiculous run where they end up winning these games, and all of a sudden you think the Dodgers are dead, and here they come back. But the injuries are what concern me.
Roger?
Yeah, I mean, it's been the injuries, and then to me, it's been the pitching, right? I mean, not necessarily the starting pitching. It's just the relief pitching, right? It's guys that you expect that have done well in the past, right? It, they're not performing at all, right? You have Vesia not performing at all. You have um, Almonte not performing at all, right? Gratterall's been shaky. All these guys that you expect to come in and shut down those innings for you can't get out. So that to me is what I think is hurting this team the most. And obviously, scoring one run here and then 6 runs in one game and then back to one or no runs in the next game. Obviously, that inconsistency at the plate is another issue. But yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a couple of times with Rojas. I mean, it was kind of seemed like an injury was just waiting to happen with him, right? He had the cramping, he had the wrist, I think he had a hamstring a couple weeks ago in spring training, right? When they pulled him out early too, just for precautionary reasons. So we kind of knew this was going to happen, and now that shortstop is really iced thin, right? I mean, really really thin, and they've called up two guys from the minor leagues to fill that role, and we'll see what happens.
Jason, you and I have not had the opportunity to chat together because I was on vacation when you came on. So make me feel better from this darkness.
I don't know if I can. I think the most exciting thing all season has been that perhaps we might move beer sales to the 8th inning. Look, here's the deal. Last time I was on here, I think I might have said that I predicted the Dodgers maybe would get 93 or 94 wins. I might have been a little too nice. I'm not going to downgrade from that. But at this point, I think if they were to get 92, 93 wins, I think we'd call that a win for the season. They're playing right now, and they went into the season with a lineup that look. You got what? You got Peralta. I just looked this up, hitting like 184. You got Jason Hayward hitting around the Mendoza line as well. You're not going to win a championship when you're starting Peralta and Hayward and guys like that. But we knew that going in, right? We knew that. We knew that the Outmans had to do what he had to do, and he's doing what I mean. I think another exciting thing of the season is going to be perhaps watching this kid maybe go for Rookie of the Year. I think he's eligible, right, for Rookie of the Year. He didn't play enough games in the past.
Correct.
But there's too many vets on here. I don't think there's enough youth outside of Freeman and Betts, and even Betts is not exactly blowing it out of the water. But when you look at the pitching staff, you're going to have games where they're going to score. Scoring hasn't been a huge issue, but I think the consistent scoring is what concerns me a little bit. And when you talk about injuries, like you guys mentioned, they just don't have the depth. I'm concerned. I am concerned. Can they make the playoffs? Sure. I just don't see the depth there. I mean, we can go on and on, but yeah, I'm concerned right now.
I agree with you in the sense that I still think they're going to win 93, 94 games, and partially because they're too good, I guess, to be this bad, if that makes sense. The Jason Hayward experiment, I think, will come to a head at some point because again, if this was Jason, I said this to someone the other day, if Jason Hayward came to the Dodgers 5 years ago,
oh, sure,
different story. But this is not the same guy. No, and that's not a knock on him. It's just, time is undefeated. Father Time is undefeated, except when you're LeBron James. But outside of that, that's going to catch up to people. JD Martinez has been a pleasant surprise. Granted, we're only 18 games in, but he was brought in to hit dingers. That's what it is at the end of the day. And so far he's delivering. But the concerning, Chris Taylor is very concerning to me. I think he's hitting like 125 or something like that. The David Peralta, like you said, also very concerning. And then Miguel Rojas, there was injury woes there, but obviously he wasn't brought in for his bat per se. He's brought in for the defense, and he's shown the glove. But one thing, if there is, I guess, a bright side, if you will, I think it was Dave Roberts said that he was trying to give it a go. He felt okay, and it feels like this IL stint is more precautionary than not. So I take that word at face value for what it is. And you still have to figure out what's what, right? But I mean, to Juan's point, any other organization, you lose a shortstop, your everyday shortstop, you're panicking, right? But with this team, the way that it's built, there should be some compensation somewhere else. And with that, my other concern is Miguel Vargas. Miguel Vargas offensively he's batting under the Mendoza line. I think like 190, something like that. And that's been my worry as far as like the youngsters go, because these vets, you kind of know what you're going to get, right? With Miguel Vargas and James Outman, the kids, they're letting them go, and that for me is a little concerning. I don't think that the moment's too big for him, but right now is when, hey, this is when you got to show the reps, right? This is when you got to step up, and that for me is a worry. I will say this though. I mean, we're 18 games in, if the math adds up. I didn't expect the Diamondbacks to be atop the AL West. I mean, there's that. So take that, San Diego. I mean, at least we have that going for us. Also, I like beer. I have liked beer, and I still like beer. So whether it's the first inning or the eighth inning, I'm here for it. And again, I agree, though. It's too early. I think it's too early to panic, like Juan said. But there is valid concerns. The bullpen has me terrified right now. I don't know what the hell's going on. I think it was Dave Roberts a couple weeks ago before I went on vacation alluded to it, that Evan Phillips was going through something, and he's dealing with something. So obviously these guys are still humans, but the underperformance of the bullpen has been concerning, if I'm totally honest. And the starters, I mean, Kershaw just got his 200th win. By the way, I thought he had already done that. That tells you, he's in year 16. And that to me blew my mind. So and by the way, congrats, Kershaw, if you're listening. You're probably not, because you're on a plane somewhere, but even that sort of stuff, that's concerning. The bullpen as a whole is concerning right now. But I trust Mark Pryor. I've said this a bunch of times here before. I'll say it again. I trust the shit out of Mark Pryor, and I know he can write that shit. But also, if there is a leadership group that can write the ship, it's these guys. Speaking of the homestand today, Mad Max got thrown out today by a Fight Club member of this podcast, Phil Cuzzy. He was thrown out for what appears to have been a foreign substance on his hand. I'm almost sure it was rosin, but what are we doing? Like you talked about the pitch clock a second ago, and the owner is kind of getting heated about it. What's happening?
Well, what I find really interesting is that there's been 3 ejections for illegal substance found on pitchers, and all 3 have been by Phil Cuzzy this year.
Thank you.
Okay. To me, if you saw the tape today, it looked like what Scherzer was saying was that it was rosin. So it could be that umpire overreacted. And if he overreacted, because here's the thing, is if he did get ejected for having a foreign substance, that's a 10-game suspension.
Yeah. And
Max Scherzer has already threatened litigation. He's already, if that's the case. So I think the fact that only 3 players have been thrown out this year and they're all by the same umpire seems a little suspect to me. What is the criteria that umpire, and did you guys see the video? That umpire was very aggressive. He shoved the glove back into Max Scherzer's chest. And I get that these umpires are human and they're just trying to do the right thing. I did not see from the tape that Cuzzy huddled up with the other umpires. So I think this is probably going to draw Major League Baseball's attention. They're probably going to have a little conversation with Cuzzy, and it's going to be very interesting. The other pitchers that got thrown out of games by Phil Cuzzy, if they don't end up suspending Scherzer, those other pitchers, I think, will have a case.
Well, and let me read you a quote from Phil Cuzzy. This is from Phil Cuzzy talking about this situation to I believe, the New York Post. I said this to Buck and to Max. It really didn't matter to us what it is, Cuzzy said. All we know is that it is far stickier than anything that we felt, certainly today, and anything this year. So in that case, we felt as though he had 2 chances to clean it up, and he was saying that it was rosin, end quote. I mean, bro, then why the fuck do we have a rosin bag? What's the purpose of that? As a former bat boy and then worked up the chain, I had to make those rosin bags, and it's fucking rosin. You just literally get a sock, you put rosin rocks, and you beat the fuck out of it until it turns into powder. That's it. That's all it is. So and by the way, this isn't even at Citi Field. This is at Dodger Stadium. So you're going to sit here and tell me that he has his own route? No, he doesn't have his own rosin bag. So that's what I'm confused by. But also, I'm of the party. If you know an official's name, that ain't good, right? Ron Culpa ain't good. Joe West also not good. So I mean, the more you know of an official's name, the worse the PR. Roger, I know you're not. I mean, Mad Max is kind of in your Fight Club, but he's no longer a Dodger. So as far as I'm concerned, it's water under the bridge. But how'd you feel about that?
Well, I mean, I didn't really know what was going on till I kind of saw what he was talking about, and he was saying it was rosin and sweat, right? But then I saw that they said it was the stickiest that they've seen. I mean, if you go, I saw some other tweets I think today. They're saying technically rosin is a foreign substance, right? I mean, it is. So it doesn't make sense why they're allowed to use it, right? When it technically they say it's a foreign substance. So I mean, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, yeah. I think I saw something from Vassay too. He in the scrum afterwards, he mentioned that his spin rate has been the same consistently all season and even through today. So he mentioned, like, ain't there something that they can go back and look on before they make a decision like that? And Scherzer said, yeah, I completely agree with that. So like they do need to come up with some way to enforce this, but they have to. It can't just be like, well, I think he's doing something with, and they don't really have a way to prove it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that there has to be some type of real evidence, and maybe that spin rate could have been something that they could actually use to kind of check what's going on.
My biggest problem with all this is literally Phil Cuzzy said, this is a problem because it's stickier than anything all year. Okay. I have a decent memory, but I'm not going to remember how something felt however the fuck long ago until today, right? Till present moment. And for me, if that's the baseline, I have a problem with that. Because then at that point, it's like, okay, so then there's these rules and you got to enforce them, but the gray area is bigger than we're thinking. Am I wrong, Jason?
Yeah, it's very gray. I mean, it's hard to tell who was. What I don't like is the fact that you really embarrass the player on the field.
Yeah.
So to me, you better get it right. And I know we've become accustomed to them shaking the hands and all that. We don't even flinch anymore. It's not as awkward as it was. But when something like this happens, it becomes a show. It's a show on the field, just because of the back and forth that you have. I wish there was a different way. Maybe it's a warning. Maybe it's something you investigate later. I don't know if it's something where you have to kick the guy out right there and then. That's tough. And I highly doubt there are any guys that are still messing around with that stuff, knowing that they're getting checked all throughout their starts and in every inning. So I don't know. That's tough. I believe Max. I not because I love the guy or feel one way or the other about Max Scherzer. I just find it hard to believe. Maybe it was just a combination, like you said, of just sweat and rosin and I'm not start talking about what every man's hands feel like, but I'm sure this could take a really weird turn in a sec. But it's hard. It's hard to tell. Hard for us to tell what's going on. I'm glad the league is staying on top of it, but it is a little bit embarrassing the way it has to go down on the field for everyone to watch.
I will say this: if it was, let's say, I don't know, Michael Pineda is a name that comes to mind, right? Remember the incident where he clearly had pine tar on his skin. If it's something obvious like that, okay, cool. I can understand. But also, it's not like Max Scherzer has a track record of this, right? And even at that, like Roger said, the spin rate has been the same all year. So for me, like, there isn't anything egregious there. But also, okay, if you don't want these guys to, and this is me taking the stand as a former guy that threw a ball. If you don't want these guys to use a substance of any kind to help not hit people, that's what's going to happen. These dudes are going to hit people, and it's only going to get worse. I'm not saying that pine tar, tack, all that jazz is the move, but rosin is, they've used it forever, and now it's a problem. Get out of here with that, man. Like, at the end of the day, it's the weird gray area of you have an illegal, legal substance on the mound that a pitcher can use, but don't throw the argument is, oh, well, it felt stickier than other things all year. Stop it. Like, get out of here, man. And even at that, Scherzer even said he knew he was going to get checked in the fourth. And the umpire said, oh, well, we gave him plenty of chances to clean it up. What does that even mean? Like, did you tell him as it came off the field, wash your hands?
Well, yeah, but you want to know what's to me the most infuriating thing about all of this?
What's that?
Is they threw Max Scherzer out in the 4th inning of the game, and the Dodgers still lost, and the Dodgers still couldn't do anything about it. That's to me what is so infuriating. You get Scherzer out of the game early, and the Dodgers still can't find a way to win that game. And I just the only silver lining that I can see in the start of this season is if things keep going the way they're going, Dodger tickets are going to be cheaper. They're going to be more reasonable. You will be able to probably take a family to go see the game. What I find more interesting is there's already the daggers are out for Roberts, and they're already out for Friedman. And I've heard this a lot. You give Friedman the benefit of the doubt because of his track record.
Right.
And I think most logical baseball fans will probably do that. But there's a lot of fans who I feel still have a lot of anger towards how last season ended. And this is not the greatest start to the season for Friedman, because of the fact that they're already over the luxury tax. Okay, so you didn't make any moves, and I understand that you had to see what you had with these kids. And so far, James Outman looks like he's going to be a major leaguer.
Yeah.
We talked about Miguel Vargas, and I know a lot of fans are like, "Hey, dude, this guy's he's looking rough." He had a rough September last year when he got called up. This start to the season, while not ideal, I do believe I'm going to cut him some slack only because of this. I don't know if he's healed from that finger. And going into spring training and not being allowed to swing the bat, I know helped in terms of tracking the ball. I don't know about you guys, but I would feel like that would affect your swing. It would affect your timing. It would, and doing that kind of stuff. So I know there's already calls for Michael Busch to be called up and all that stuff. The way the Dodgers infield depth is, I don't know if we have that luxury to call anybody up. Look, Chris Taylor may also end up going into the IL, and I know everybody wanted to go send him to the IL with a phantom injury, but it looks like Chris Taylor may have an actual legitimate injury, which leads me to who had Mookie Betts playing shortstop on your bingo card this year for the Dodgers. This is how I think we really need to take this into context, how bad the start of this season is for the Dodgers, which, by the way, are only 2 games out of first place,
right?
1 game out of 500, right? But everybody's talking about them like they're trash, right? And so the thing is this. I'm very curious. I was at the games, and I know, Babyface, you've been to a couple of games, so I'm curious if anybody else has noticed this. I kind of feel like there's a lack of energy at Dodger Stadium. And it might be because of the way the team is playing and how things have started off. But Babyface, have you noticed any of that?
Not so much. I mean, I think it's kind of hard to, like, when you're a fan there, right, and you're cheering, right, and say the team's behind, and then they score, and now it's 3-2, and then the next inning they give up 2 more runs, right, 4 or 5 runs. Now, so it's really hard to kind of get into that momentum as a fan, like you're in the game and like, hey, we're winning this game, like today, right? They were down a couple runs, and they gave up some in the 9th, and Peralta ends up hitting a home run. If they don't give up those runs, it's a tie game, right? So stuff like that. So I think maybe stuff like that, the fans are like, like they feel like, hey, something's going good, and then all of a sudden the next half inning, the bullpen gives up a couple runs. So I think that's been happening a lot. So I have noticed maybe something like that. I don't know if that's exactly what you're referring to, but I do kind of see that, like, you get you get up and then you get the win knocked out. So,
Jason, I mean, I know you're a fellow hater like I am. I mean, finally we bring some balance. You show up, but is that me just being too negative? Do you sense a palpable anger from Dodger fans, especially with the start of this season?
Yeah, I don't think fans like this team. They're not excited about this team. I know I wasn't going in. the one guy who did not have an injury in the offseason was Andrew Friedman, but yet he still acted like it. He did nothing. He did absolutely nothing. And so it leads me to believe that I don't want to say they tanked this season, because this isn't the NBA where you'll tank a season to get a good pick.
Yeah.
But I really believe that, I think the brass inside know this is not going to be the year. I think they knew going in, this is not the year we're going to the World Series, and we're okay with that because we're waiting for Ohtani in 24. And that's what it feels like. And I think fans feel like that. Like we really just kind of put the season off to the side. We'll make it entertaining. Maybe we'll hit a wild card and win a couple games. But I really don't believe management went in wanting to win this year. I think they knew this was what they were going to get. They're not going to admit it, because that's the way they acted in the offseason. They threw a team out. They threw actually, the team was worse than they were last year. They did not put out a team that was even as good as the team that was out there last year. You look at the pitching staff, you look at the rotation, you look at the bullpen, a lot of faces are very unrecognizable to a lot of fans too. So I think that's part of why I think the lack of the excitement is there, because I'm feeling it too. I've been to a few games and I can see that. I know you guys are there a little bit more, but from the little bit I've been there, it's something is missing. I don't think fans are excited about the team. They're hopeful. It's still early, but when you go into the offseason and do nothing and let everybody around you make some moves, it really comes off as if you kind of put the season off to the side, hoping for something big to happen at the end of this offseason. So things can turn around. This team has been known to do some wonderful trades, and I can't believe I'm already looking forward to the trade deadline. It's only April, but I really am. If we don't do something by the deadline, I know it's still 3 months away or what have you, we're screwed. And so they need, this team right here is not going to win us a championship. If they win us a division, I'm buying everyone here dinner wherever they want. I just don't see it. I'm hopeful they'll do it. I still think the Padres are going to do it. I'm not going to say that they're going to run away with it. You never know. But I just don't see it. But I do agree with you, Juan. I don't see the excitement around Dodger Stadium, around this team. I don't know. And one thing I want to mention, because I know I've said it before, I've never been a big fan of Dave Roberts. I've not. He's a great guy, beautiful, I'm sure, wonderful family man, all that good stuff. The other night, and the name is right. I'm drawing a blank, but there was a game the other night where they were down 3-2 in the 8th inning, and I forget the reliever they brought in.
Was it Bickford?
No, it wasn't Bickford. Oh, geez. He had like the bun and everything. I'm trying to remember. They were down 3-2. Pardon?
Gratterall?
Was it Andre Jackson?
Andre Jackson. The game where Andre Jackson came in.
I want to give credit to Michael Carrillo, who's following us on the live. I want to give him credit for that, Michael.
Thank you. That's exactly who it was. We were down only 3-2. They bring him in the 8th. 4-2. 5-2. He's still there. The game is still within reach. Oh, and in pure Dave Roberts fashion, I'm going to throw him out there in the 9th just for kicks and giggles. Who does that? Who does that? That you and I could have done that, and this guy gets paid 7 figures so I don't understand. I don't know if you had something against Andre Jackson, which sometimes I believe that sometimes managers want to prove a point and they leave a guy out there too long, because it was almost embarrassing for him to see him out there just get destroyed for 2 innings. But what are you telling the rest of your ball club? The game is still within reach, even with 3 runs in the 9th inning, and now all of a sudden now it's 8-2 and the game's over. Things like that. And that's the last thing I'll say about that is that when you already have a team on the margins, I think this is where coaching and everyday management is going to be very key. And we're going to really see Dave Roberts have to earn his money this year, because he doesn't have a stacked 110-win team. This is where he's really going to have to manage those pitchers. And that to me was really disheartening.
So I know, because Alonso brought this up. He brought the same thing up. And this was, for those of you who did not hear Dave Roberts' explanation for that, is the Dodgers were going to be playing 10 games in a row. So he wanted to save the bullpen, and basically, I was about to call him Andrew Jackson. Andre Jackson had to take one for the team. I was very surprised at how quick of a trigger they had, and when they sent him down. Now, if he truly is tipping his pitches and he needs to work on that, okay, I get that. But to your point, Jason, here's the thing. Obviously, right now, no one in that bullpen is trusted. Anybody that you bring in right now seems to be a gas can. Being around the beat writers, this is what I hear a lot. and this is what I hear them ask Dave Roberts a lot. Is it just the same old thing where this team is just consistently inconsistent? There's games where they don't pitch. There's games they don't hit. There's games where the bullpen just lights it up. And Dave Roberts has said, these are the guys we have, and this is who we're rolling with. So these guys need to figure it out. And they have time. But that, I guess, is the fear from everybody, is that what if they don't figure it out? Or what if these young players don't pan out, right? Because that was the hope. That's what was going to save us. We were going to have these young players come in. They were going to be gritty. They were going to bring something that an 111-win team last year didn't have. Well, so far, what we're seeing is a lot of injuries. Ryan Pepiot is hurt. Now, Michael Grove actually pitched well his last start. So maybe the illness really did impact him the first 2 starts of the season. But I know Michael Carrillo, who's watching us on the live, asked the question, why would Ohtani want to come here given this level of play? I know Alonso is on record as saying Ohtani is not coming here. Maybe the Dodgers sucking. We're looking at this the wrong way, guys. Maybe the Dodgers sucking will help us sign Ohtani, because Ohtani will take pity on us and say, I can save the Dodgers. I can bring this poor, small market team, the Dodgers, back to respectability. But what do you think, Alonso?
That's the most Hulk Hogan thing you've ever said to me.
How dare you, sir? How dare you? And for those of you listening to the Pukester, I agree with the Iron Sheik. You ham and eggers, go back and being humanoids.
What's funny is oh man, the inconsistency of this team. If you really think about it, it not only is it frustrating, but it's almost comical. And the reason I say it that way is because half of it is really, the inconsistency, right? But then the other part is the Dave Roberts effect. Like, is Dave really having that much of an effect as a game manager? And to me, I don't know if the latter is true. I think Dave is a great manager. I know that might irk some people in this conversation right now, CC, Jason, but I think Dave is a really good manager. I think in this particular instance, like you said, they have some good pieces there, right? You got Dustin May coming back from Tommy John, so you kind of have to give him a little bit of a pass. But I mean, did you expect, to have Pepiot up so early, Michael Grove up so early, right? So I mean, I didn't expect to ever see Noah Syndergaard as a Dodger, but alas, here we are. So I mean, those sorts of things are there, right? But like for instance, the Andre Jackson thing, I think he was tipping his pitches. I went back and watched some of that. He's tipping them pretty bad. You don't have an 11 ERA just to have an 11 ERA. Look at Mad Bum. Mad Bum can't figure out what the fuck.
Alex Vesia just said, "Hold my beer." By the way.
Well, and Alex Vesia also same boat, right? But I think I don't even think Vesia is tipping. It's just like when I watched him throw the other day, he's just not locating. It's just what it comes down to. And
Alonso, let me ask you this on Vesia. Could it also be Vesia is now this is his 3rd year in the big leagues?
Yeah.
And there's more tape on him now. Could it be that he is no longer surprising anyone and these guys know what to expect? Along with actually having a location problem, right? If you can't locate pitches, if you have no movement on pitches, I mean, these major leaguers, they're major leaguers for a reason.
100%. What were you going to say, Jason?
No, yeah, I want to add something on that on Alex Vesia. What I don't like about, and I think maybe it's the rules that have changed now, where now you just can't bring out a lefty to pitch to a lefty for one player and change that. Yeah. That's going to affect guys like Alex Vesia. Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of left-handed relievers. I'm old school. I believe lefties should only go against lefties and bring them out as a specialist. Problem with this guy is he puts him out there like he's a righty. And he puts it right down the middle, and they're eating it up. I think under the old rules, I think Vesia might have been a nice lefty to have to bring out in a situation against another left-handed pitcher. But when you start using these left-handed relievers, like the right-handed relievers, you're going to get blown away. There's very few of them, I believe, that are really, really good that can get away with that. But Vesia is not one of them, and I think these new rules are exposing that.
But a lot of it too.
Alonzo, can you believe this? This guy's an anti-leftite.
Yeah,
He's an anti-leftite.
As a lefty, how dare you?
Who's a lefty? You're a lefty, Alonzo.
Yeah.
Real quick, do you think the new rules, the pitch clock rules, have anything to do with Vesia's struggles? Because he was one of the guys that took longer than that permitted time prior, and now he has to get back in there. He's trying to get into that new routine, and it's been affecting him.
I don't think
I hear that a lot for the bullpen struggles, because guess what? The Dodgers aren't the only team whose bullpen seems to be lighting itself on fire. There's a lot of teams. I mean, look, guys, the only team in the National League West that has a winning record are the Arizona Diamondbacks. Everyone else is struggling. Alonzo, let me ask you, I'm going to read this quote to you. You tell me which player said this.
Okay.
I'd rather this happen now.
A Dodger?
I don't want to give it away.
Okay.
But you tell me who said this.
Manny.
I'd rather this happen now than down the road. It's just don't jump on the bandwagon later on when we start fucking raking and we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Man, that could be 3 or 4 guys. I'm going to go with that's a good one. I'm going safe bet Freddie Freeman.
Jason, do you have a guess?
Muncy.
That was my second guess.
And Babyface, you ruined it for everyone, so go ahead.
Manny Machado.
That was Manny Machado. And them feeling the heat because the show pods haven't gotten on to a good start. Now, to me, the show pod start is more I guess you can explain that bad start because they have had injuries.
Yeah.
But they've also played teams with a lot. They've had to play the Bravos twice. They've played the Metropolitans. They played Milwaukee. We haven't even gotten to the hard part of the Dodgers schedule.
This is supposed to be the easy part.
Right. And so this is why, again, guys, instead of just being upset and throwing a pity party, let's look at it this way. Let's look at the positives. We might get cheaper tickets on StubHub, okay? We might get Ohtani to take pity on us and save us. We had friend of the carne asada, Dylan Hernandez, on the show, who said that Ohtani is a different cat.
Yep.
Now, don't you think like Ohtani would love to have that feather in his cap and be like, I saved the Dodgers. The Dodgers were struggling, and I came and I turned around that poor small market franchise who can't afford to get any good players on the team.
Jason, I don't know your position on this. Do you think Ohtani's going to be a Dodger?
I think there's a good chance. I don't see why not. I think if he likes the West Coast, he doesn't have to go very far. He's already here in Southern California. If the money's equal, right, assuming the money's equal from all the big teams, I think there's a strong chance. I don't see why, even if the Dodgers have, let's say, a 500 year, they've proven that they've been winners over the last decade. I think a guy like Ohtani, and if you're interested in sponsorship deals and other businesses like other athletes, this is probably the place to be if it's not New York.
Real quick, Alonzo, I want to answer Dave Luna's question.
That's actually what I was about to do, so go ahead.
Okay, go ahead.
No, Dave, I mean, really, what it comes down to, the nuts and bolts of it is Japanese players are wired incredibly different than American players. They look at things in projects. They actually don't like to be traded either. If you are being traded in the Japanese league, that means you're washed, more or less. And then with a guy like Ohtani, he's also more concerned about kind of his legacy more than anything. And so that's why for me, the Dodgers, they do make a lot of sense, but I think for him long-term, this dude just wants to win. That's what it comes down to. And if there's a healthy project that's viable for a long time, then that's what that guy's going to look at. That's partially why I don't think he's going to come here. Not to say that the Dodgers aren't built to win or they're not going to win. I'm not saying that at all. I think it's more because he knows what to expect in a place like a Seattle or a Minnesota, because it's such a young core that you know kind of what's going on. But that's why he's a different cat. I will say this. I heard a lot of people talking trash on it today as to why the Yankees were selling an Ohtani jersey. Here is my theory. I think they're selling that jersey because it was the number 1 selling jersey, by the way, at Yankee Stadium. Wow. I think this is their sales pitch to Ohtani. If you come here, you're going to be the guy. Yeah,
I didn't hear about that. They're selling his jersey?
Yes, in Japanese. Yeah. An Angels jersey in Japanese.
They were selling. Yeah, it's right next to Aaron Judge's jersey, Jason. So this is how bad things are going for the Dodgers. We have now officially turned to Ohtani talk. So welcome, everybody. We will be talking Shohei Ohtani all the time from the rest of the season. I want to segue real quick in terms of these struggles, guys. I know it's a lot. We've talked about the bullpen. We've talked to a certain aspect of the starting pitching, but we found out that Will Smith had a concussion. One, I am surprised that we don't see more catchers that have a concussion. And so originally over the weekend, Dave Roberts said that he would be off the list eligible to come back on April 20th, on Thursday. And it looks like that's not going to happen. I'm curious to see if this Will Smith concussion is going to linger throughout the season, if he's going to continue to have these symptoms. And is this how much they miss Will Smith? Is his bat that powerful? Does it say more about Will Smith's bat, or does it say more about the Dodgers roster construction this year?
I think it's twofold. One, the bat for sure is important, but if your more or less everyday catcher isn't out there being the field general, that's a problem. Not to say that Austin Wynns is washed or is not good, or not. No, I'm not saying it, or even Austin Barnes. Not saying that at all. But Will Smith is an elite catcher. Like, there's just no other way to put it. That's hard to replace. Why do you think Yadier Molina pitched for so many years? Because he's good. He's elite. That guy has a feel for the game, has a feel for the pitchers, has a feel for the bullpen. So obviously Clayton Kershaw's personal catcher. That's why he has a personal catcher. He's got a rhythm with him. He's got a feel with him, all that stuff. That's huge. That's huge for these pitchers. And then you throw that into the mix with a struggling bullpen. That's huge. That's massive. And by the way, I don't think the pitch clock has anything to do with these woes, if I'm totally honest with you. I think it's what it comes down to is right now they're just out of sorts. That's all it is. But this doesn't help that. The Will Smith effect does not help that. Offensively, doesn't help either because he's hitting three over 300. And now that bat is out of the lineup. And for the record, the only hitter hitting over 300 for the Los Angeles Dodgers right now. So I think that's huge. Jason, what say you?
I think you wrap that up perfectly. I completely agree. It's a combination of both. One, I think it's how good and how consistent Will Smith has been over the last year, 2 years, perhaps. He's been a very consistent Dodger. But when you're on the margins, you cannot afford to lose one or two bats. And so not only do you lose that particular bat, but now you're losing the guy who's backing up the other guys. And so now that also has a ripple effect with the Mookie Betts and what have you on the team, when now you're getting backed up by fill in the blank, right? Jason Hayward or whoever they're throwing out there. And so that's rough. It's a combination of both. That was a huge, huge blow. Hopefully we'll get them back soon, but we cannot afford to lose guys like that. Not at all.
Jason, say the truth. There's just too many Austins on this team for you. I mean, you're the only one that tells the truth about Austin Barnes.
Yeah.
While he's our favorite Mexican, I know that you are. This is what cracks me up.
Was Mexican before this, by the way. Now that we brought this up, because I did it.
Yeah, we did. At least I know I did. I knew that.
People, I know I'm going way off the rails, but my dad and I are sitting here watching. Going, what? And all of my friends. I had no clue.
His mom, I believe his mom is Mexican.
Yes.
Yeah. By the way, my apologies to Freddie Freeman. Frederick, my bad. You're hitting 311. I didn't mean to throw for you to catch a straight tonight. Go ahead, Juan.
And that was a Freddie Freeman who went through like a tremendous funk. Yeah. If he hadn't have gone through that funk, he was the only Dodger going into the season that I actually had any faith in offensively. And then when he started slumping, let me tell you, I was at the game on Sunday. And it was the saddest Christmas ever when they interviewed him. And I will say this, I want to give Federico credit for this because I think Federico gets slammed, especially after the Braves series last year because he showed emotion, God forbid, and he gets slammed as being after a game where he struck out 4 times, sat there and took questions from the media. And I know that Alicia's not here, so I'll just take the baton in terms of Mookie bashing. I can't remember the last time Mookie Betts did that. And I know it's early, and I know a lot of people. I know Dave Vassay of Dodger Talk, friend of the Carne Asada, has been somewhat critical of Mookie Betts and saying, hey, do you maybe need Mookie Betts to step up and do a little more with the offense struggling like this? But I could be wrong. You guys tell me, have you ever seen Mookie Betts, after having a tough game or a tough start, talk to the media?
I haven't paid enough attention, but I'll defer to the group.
I see, and I think it's okay. So we've talked about this before. I think some of the bashing he gets is unwarranted, in my opinion. But I understand why he gets the bashing, because of the contract. Like, I get that. You got a fucking championship out of it. Like, there you go. Let's start there, and then let's work our way forward, right? So I mean, I think some of it's unwarranted, but we also, you lose sight of how good that dude is. He's good. I mean, you can't deny that. I mean, this dude's about to play probably shortstop for the Los Angeles Dodgers in Major League Baseball. Like, I can't do that. I don't think you guys, I mean, I don't know everyone's athletic ability, so I'm not going to sit here and I mean, I know Juan can't, because they barely let him back in the press box after stealing all the snacks.
I probably could.
That's a lie. But I digress. But I think a little bit of it is unwarranted, and I think he catches strays partially because of the contract. But I think a lot of people expect him to be the de facto leader. And I've said this before, just because you get a giant contract doesn't necessarily imply that that's what you're going to be. That's not your role. You're going to be a veteran in the clubhouse, but I think that's an unfair categorization of a guy like that. Some people may think that I'm crazy, but at the same time, his play warranted the contract, right? So just because you're a superstar player doesn't necessarily mean that you're a leader. I think Freddie Freeman is a good leader. I mean, but he's also not making necessarily, the likes of Mookie money. I mean, $160 million is a lot of money, but it's not, to the terms of a Mookie Betts. But again, he's leading by example, doing what he needs to do. We don't know what Mookie does behind closed doors. I mean, that's just where it needs to be left. So that's why I think that's an unfair characterization. That makes sense?
Yeah, Roger, have you seen it? The only reason why I bring it up is the times I have been in the clubhouse post game, and it's not fun being in that clubhouse after they lose. It is a completely different energy. I've seen players, and I know they don't want to do it, but I've seen players take the bullet and take the questions. I saw Federico do it last Sunday. Prior to that, I saw Will Smith do it and stand up and protect Brusdar Gratterall after Brusdar had a bad game. Like, Will Smith was like, you guys want to talk to me? Okay, fine. I'll talk to him. I just don't remember when times are tough. And I'm just curious. And I get it, what you're saying, Alonso. I do sometimes think it's unwarranted. But it does seem that there is a level of protection for him, and I think he gets a pass on some of these things. And I'm just curious. But tell me I'm wrong, babyface.
I mean, the guy just had a baby. Like, can you cut him some slack? Like, he's gonna have some restless nights coming up, and so let's cut him some slack a little bit, right?
Got it. So I got it. So I'm the asshole. I'm the asshole, right? Everyone else calls him out, but I'm the asshole.
I can be a jerk with you here, Juan, on this one. If you like it. Don't worry about that. With Mookie, I don't need him to be a leader. I need him to hit. He has been underwhelming since he signed that contract. The only time he did well was in the 2-month season. I don't want to make Dodger fans upset. COVID season. He had a great 2 months for us and didn't do that well in the postseason, by the way. You can look at the stats in 2020, but we still won. His defense is never going to go in a slump. The guy is incredibly athletic. Yes, I'd argue he's the most athletic Dodger. The guy can bowl. The guy can do it all. He can do a lot of things. And so his defense will never go in a slump. I need him to at least give me 295 consistently every year. Give me 30-plus home runs. You're making that kind of money. And that's where the Dodger fans are getting a little restless. This 260 stuff ain't cutting it. That's not what we're paying for. And so now Freddie Freeman, he's just a natural good hitter. The guy's just a good hitter. He's a stud. Yeah, and he's a likable guy. And Mookie Betts is a likable guy. I like Mookie Betts. I think he's a very likable guy. Maybe he just doesn't want to talk to the media when he loses. I get that. But I need him to hit. That's what I need him to do. Then he can not talk to anybody as much as he wants, but he needs to perform.
He did talk to the media after they lost to the Padres in the postseason last year.
Okay, so it's me.
But
Yeah.
he's one of those guys that doesn't like you said, it's Will Smith usually talking to him. It's usually like the pitcher. It's usually like some of the you can go back, like you hardly ever hear from Mookie Betts, right? Like in that playoff game, yeah, he did talk in that game, but you hardly ever do. He's not one of those guys that I guess the media is waiting for and they go to him to hear what he has to say. He's just not one of those guys that talks a lot.
Hey, I was going to ask that, and those of you who have been there, because I haven't been there after the games, that's a good point. Are the media even going to him? So is he getting the chance to even reject an interview, or is it, I don't want to start something here, but is it the fact that maybe folks aren't gravitating to him for an interview? I don't know. I haven't been back.
So usually I'm going to let you guys know how the chorizo is made. So usually it's PR. Dodgers PR will let us know which players are going to be available. And you'll see some reporters will try to talk to certain players, and certain players will be like, no, I don't want to talk. But for the most part, PR is going to let us know who's available, and then Spectrum Sportsnet LA will always get the first question. So that's the point. To me, it's just something that I see the anger that's directed, the frustration probably that's more accurate towards, like you just said, Jason. I mean, he's a star, and they expect these guys to be perfect all the time, and when they're not, I don't know. I mean, if Mookie did talk more, like I said, when Federico talked to the media and everybody's look, it's a slump. If anybody knew the recipe to get out of a slump, there would be no slumps, right? So Federico is like the saddest Christmas ever, talking to us going, I don't know. I do the same thing every day. And that to me has just got to be fucking the most frustrating thing in the world, where you do everything and you have success with it. So obviously you're going to keep doing the same thing because you have success with it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're going to go away from what brought you success because things aren't going your way. I mean, baseball is just, I mean, we've said this many times on this show. It is a game of failure, right? And I just had a lot of respect for Federico because I feel like he's taken a lot of shit, and for him to sit there and take those questions early in the season, I thought that was big of him. But you're right, Alonso. Mookie did answer in the postseason, but I stand corrected then.
That you're the asshole? Yeah, that is correct.
There was never a doubt, my friend. Never a doubt.
Well, and I'll say this: if Freddie Freeman is in a slump, that tells you how real slumps are, because that's a guy that doesn't really ever have per se slumps, right? Like, I mean, does he have like a period where he's only hitting singles or kind of stuff like that? But my man just barrel to bat didn't make any sense. That wasn't making sense up here. And so, but I mean, again, it's a game of failure, like you said. I mean, look at Max Muncy. Max Muncy couldn't hit anything, couldn't hit air. Like, he literally couldn't hit anything. And now my man is just on a tear again. So I mean, that's the game of baseball. It's a game of attrition. Before we wrap this guy up, there's two things we want to broach. One, I wanted to ask you guys, since I'm surrounded by haters. So I mean, it's the player haters ball. So we have to address some things here. Since it's so bad, who do you guys think the Dodgers should go out and trade for? Let's say the trade deadline was tomorrow, because apparently that's what Jason wants to happen, is the trade deadline to be tomorrow. Who should the Dodgers go out and acquire? What was that?
Can we move the trade deadline to April?
No. Yeah, April 32nd. Yeah. It's April 32nd, and it's April 31st right now. Tomorrow's the deadline. Who are the Dodgers trading for if you're Andrew Friedman?
Well, Michael Carrillo has suggested Oswald Peraza is who Michael Carrillo would like to see on the show. I honestly, I don't know, because for years the Dodgers did not have to worry about a shortstop, right? They had Corey Seager, they had Trey Turner, and now it's become a problem. But I'm kind of, for me, it seems like what are how many holes do we need to plug, right? And what do we need to do, in order to survive? Because I am curious, if Will Smith comes back, how much does that change the lineup? Like, all of a sudden, do they start hitting? Like you had mentioned, Alonso, does the bullpen start pitching better because there's a little more consistency? Who knows? And maybe you can get away. Is Chris Taylor really healthy? Is the reason why? I mean, the dude has 5 hits and 4 of them are for home runs. So it's like, is there something else going on with these guys that we don't know? Because a lot of these guys may be just playing hurt out of necessity because the Dodgers are so thin in the infield. So as much fun as it would be, and like I said, everything looks horrible right now. What's clear to me is there doesn't seem to be a solution for shortstop in the minor leagues. That's because what's clear to me. And then the thing is if you're going to look at the Michael Bushes to help you up at the big league level, that's one less trade chip. And after Michael Bush, I don't know what other position players you have in order for trade chips. I mean, Andy Pages, are you guys ready to give up on Andy Pages and get rid of him to try to solve this short solution? I know the thing is just get in. And I said it at the beginning of the season. I don't expect the Dodgers to win the division. If they can get in as a wild card and just get hot at that time, we can see what happens. But as of right now, I know there was talk of the Tim Anderson thing, and the Tim Anderson thing is not going to happen.
Right.
I just don't see it happening. So I know this is a non-answer to your question, Alonso, but I don't know if the Dodgers do make a trade chip, if it's necessarily going to be for shortstop, because the way things are going right now, what are you going to do at second base? I mean, maybe do we start seeing Mookie Betts if Miguel Vargas isn't healthy or Miguel Vargas doesn't come around? How much longer can you keep throwing Miguel Vargas out there? That's, to me, the problem is, you want to give these guys until like June, right? But by then, who knows where we're going to be in the standings? And then it's going to be Shohei Ohtani talk all the time here on the Bleed Those podcast.
You non-answered the shit out of that. Jason, go ahead.
I don't have a name, but I'd say starting pitching. We need pitching. I'm a firm believer. If you can't beat them with hitting, then you got to beat them with pitching, or vice versa. I don't know if there's enough out there to solve. I think Tim Anderson would be great, but I don't think it's going to happen either. But I think I'm just not happy with the Syndergaards and all that. We need a legitimate starter. I really believe so. Right now, outside of Urias and Kershaw, I don't know if I trust what's going to happen 3, 4, and 5. If I'm even going to buy that $2 ticket that Juan says is going to happen. I'll start going to Noah Syndergaard games here by June for about $5 a seat.
What about you, Roger?
I mean, I don't think there really isn't anybody in the market at those positions, right? Like, who's a shortstop that's going to be available, right? Talk is Anderson, right? But he has an option, right? Is he really going to are the White Sox really going to give him up? The Brewers, right? We'll talk with what's his name at short? The Brewers. Are they going to give him up? Adames? Yeah. They're not going to give him up, right? So who is there at short, right? I mean, are they going to have to trade from the farm to get maybe a so-so top prospect, maybe from another team at shortstop, right? To kind of fill that, and maybe in a year or two, then they have a guy, at shortstop, and same thing on the pitching market, right? They do, I would say, they need a shortstop, they need pitching, starting pitching, and relief, right? Those are the areas that right now you find the void in, but who's available, right? Like who can they realistically go out and get? And we can't say it's going to happen in a couple of days because we don't know, but luckily the trade deadline is in July. So by that time, we'll probably get to see some guys become available, and that's when they'll try and make a move.
All right, I'm going to throw.
Okay, so I'm just writing this down. So we just need a shortstop, starting pitching, and bullpen, and that'll be the next topic on Shohei Ohtani Show here. Mushi mushi, everyone.
Well, I mean, I think okay. So again, this is early, right? So I again, you're telling me the sky is falling, but you're not giving me a solution. So is the sky really falling? That makes sense. So
Yeah, I hear you.
So I mean, I don't think that they're going to trade Tim Anderson. I don't. I partially because it's the White Sox, but I don't think they're going to move on from him. But there would be a couple interesting names that I think the Dodgers would kick tires on because they were already out there anyway. One of them is Gleyber Torres because they need a second baseman, and I mean I'd take a waiver on that guy. There's also there's this guy in Cleveland that I don't think they're going to pay because they don't like to pay people. His name is Amer Rosario. That's who I would trade for as a shortstop if he's available. Tim Anderson's a nice player. He's a great player. Ahmed he's got a hell of a glove. And then and I mean you're gonna need a pitcher, right? And you're probably gonna need a starter if the kids keep doing what they're doing. So why not go out and get Martin Perez from Texas? Because listen, the DeGrom experiment I think is gonna be a disaster. I think that dude's gonna be just as hurt as everyone on this roster is currently, but he's gonna have all of those episodes in a season for the next 5 years. So why not go out and make a move for a guy I'm sorry, Jason, he's a lefty. But he's a good lefty. Julio Urias is a lefty. What's your problem with him?
No, I meant relievers.
Oh, okay. All right.
Look,
all I saw is red. That's all I saw is red. When you said no lefties, lefty hate, all I saw is red.
But you guys are forgetting we got Catman coming. We don't need another pitcher. We got the Catman.
You just told me the sky was fucking falling. So I gave you solutions, and now you have solutions for the solution?
Is it too late?
The sky is not falling because we have Shohei Ohtani on the show. Hey, everybody, it's Shohei Ohtani. Mushi mushi, everyone.
Have you ever been canceled? I'm just curious. Have you?
I will after this show.
Okay. What were you saying, Jason, before you were so rudely interrupted by our host?
Is it too late to trade for Bruce Bochy? I mean, 12-6, folks. Your Texas Rangers. They're going to win the American League, and it's going to be because of Bruce Bochy.
I think they'll be in the playoffs, but I don't think they're built for that. They're not. They don't have that dog in them. Bruce Bochy does though. Bruce Bochy does.
Rangers won't even make the playoffs.
Wow, that's a stray from the cheap seats right there. Okay, before we go, we have to give a lefty flowers. I'm sorry, Jason. Clayton Kershaw won his 200th game last night. A part of the 2 wins from this homestand was the Clayton Kershaw expenditure. A crazy stat that I didn't know that someone from our account tweeted out. Thank you, whoever our statisticians are. Clayton Kershaw's .694 career winning percentage is the highest in MLB history among pitchers with 200 plus wins. I did not know that. I also am guilty of assuming he had already won 200 games. So that's where I'm at. But bro, Kershaw's still so good. Like he's 16 years in, 33, 34, something like that. And speaking of dogs, he has that dog in him. This is my worry to something Jason said earlier. Let's say the Dodgers are throwing the season to the wayside. Who I feel really bad for is Clayton Kershaw.
Yep.
Because if they really are, and I don't think that's what they're doing personally, but crazier things have happened in sports. But if that's what's happening, it's at that guy's expense. Because if he wins another title, that solidifies. I mean, it's already solidified, right? But in my opinion, it solidifies GOAT, right? Like it is GOAT as that goes. And so I wanted to hear your guys' take on that, starting with Roger. Like that again, that's crazy. That's like it's like when Aaron Rodgers retires, we're gonna see all of his stats. Yeah, he's a douchebag, but then you see all of his stats and you're just like, holy shit, he threw 3 interceptions. Like what? Like it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean?
I mean, what more can you say about Kershaw, right? I mean, he got 200 wins. I mean, I would love to see him get 300. I was trying to do the math. I'm like, you'd probably have to pitch like 5 more seasons, get like 15 wins a year, right? To get that. I mean, I think he could probably do it, right? I mean, probably wouldn't be with the Dodgers, but I mean, he could probably do it. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I said, Kershaw is the GOAT. He's the best pitcher I've ever seen, right? And everything now that he's doing is just adding to his resume, right? He's a champion. He's an MVP. He's a Cy Young winner, right? And now he's just adding to it and just adding to it. And, he is the greatest that we've seen in this generation.
I want to know, is 22 available for the Texas Rangers? So that's just what I want, because
I mean, too, this is a great segue too, because Juan, he was like pretty much threw him under the bus last week. If anybody heard that episode,
I didn't hear it because I was on vacation.
Yeah, and I didn't get a thank you or anything. What did I say? I said, hey, guys, maybe we just got to get used to this is the Kershaw we're going to see. And then what happens? I challenge Kershaw because I'm the only one who has the huevos on this show to challenge the stars. I challenged Kershaw, and he threw a great game yesterday. So you're welcome, Clayton. I'm going to miss you when you play in Texas next year. I really am. But,
I hope he hits you the next time.
But here's the thing, in all seriousness, he's not, even Kershaw said it in his post-game press conference. He's not going to get to 300. Even if he averages 15 wins for the next 5 years, that only gets him to 275. What I would love,
you're forgetting all the wins he's going to get this season.
That's true. So I mean, look, I would love to see it happen, but realistically, what I would love to see him do is pass Don Sutton. And that's what, I mean, Don Sutton has 233. I think this season he's going to pass Drysdale. Drysdale has 209. But I would love for the most winning pitcher in Dodgers history to be Clayton Kershaw, because he is the best pitcher in Dodgers history, right? I think people now have very conveniently have said he's better than Koufax, that he has better numbers than Koufax. So we can't argue that. So I would love to see him stay a Dodger long enough to pass Don Sutton. I was looking at Don Sutton, like Don Sutton's the leader in a lot of pitching categories for the Dodgers. And that poor guy just does not get the respect because of that. And here I am shitting on him saying, I don't want Don Sutton to be the leader of wins for the Dodgers.
Had a lot of losses though, didn't he?
Yeah, he's also the leader in losses.
He wasn't that great of a pitcher. I think he was.
But I'm the asshole, right, Jason? I'm the asshole. Here comes Jason.
It's okay though, because he's right-handed, right, Jason?
That's right.
The anti-leftite.
Yeah.
The anti-leftite. But yeah, I mean, how great was that last night? You saw the emotion. There's that great picture of him out there, but you saw him constantly interacting with his family. And that to me is a guy who knows the end is around the corner and he's trying to enjoy it. That's a guy that I think that's perspective, right? That's perspective where you've played the game long enough. I think we saw it with Kobe towards the end of his career, where Kobe's like, you know what? I need to start enjoying this because I'm not going to be around this much more. So to see Kershaw do that, that's the only thing is I would love Kershaw to stick around to be a Dodger long enough that he passes Sutton for most wins as a Dodger.
The anti-leftite from Buck Nasty.
I hope he does pass Don Sutton because I don't like Don Sutton. He's a Dodger hater. Okay, so if he's never stepped foot in Dodger Stadium, that's fine. He is the Dodger hater. He's always talked trash.
The guy is dead, Jason. So.
Yeah,
but I get, but he just
Bro, Easter just passed, and
he never liked the Dodgers at the end. But if he passes Don Sutton, that's great. I don't think Kershaw will get to 300. I don't even think he'll get to 260. I think he can get to 245, 250. I think we got about maybe 2 more seasons of Kershaw left in him. I think he'll retire at about 36. And if I were him, I would too. I mean, he has nothing else to prove. I think he'd want to be with his family and raise his family at some point. But he is surprising a lot of us with how he's performing this year. He's exceptionally well. He started out really great last year and performed okay towards the end. And he's still defying the odds for a guy who's been going at it for 16 seasons, I think we said, or so.
16,
so it's incredible. So I hope he does do it. It does look like he's the best Dodger pitcher of all time and just one of the best overall, and just a great guy in general, right? It's just a feel-good guy. I'm going to try to end on a positive note for this lefty, but I think Clayton Kershaw is kind of what you want out of an athlete in any sport, just all around. He has that dog in him, like we said. He's just a good person, good interview. I would hate to see him go. I hope he doesn't become a Texas Ranger, but I don't know. You never know what happens. He's on a year-to-year, so we'll see.
He's 35 currently, so that means he's retiring next year. according
You
to
know what?
37.
I do think that 250 now is the new 300.
Yeah,
I
would
think
agree with
pitchers getting to 250 will be viewed as 300, and I think that would be the magic number. I think to get pitchers now into the Hall of Fame. But before we end the show, because I don't want to upset our wrestling fans, I don't want to get any more angry tweets. We haven't talked wrestling on this episode, and I made a promise that I would try to make a more concerted effort to talk wrestling. I just want to say this past week was the birthday of the Hot Rod, Roddy Piper. So I just want to get your guys' thoughts. Jason, we don't know if you're one of us. Are you a wrestling fan?
I don't follow it anymore. So I'd be lying if I said I did. I'm a big fan of up until I would say the early 2000s. And then after that, I kind of drifted.
You fit in perfectly. You're one of us. Wrestling ended in 2000 for the majority of us.
There you go. Then I'm right with you.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the Hot Rod?
I love the Hot Rod. I mean, when I think of my fondest memories of the mid 80s going into the early 90s, I'm a kid of that era. I mean, it was awesome. It just had a certain energy that you would love to see out there on the ring. I would put him in, let's see, in my category of all-time favorite guys to come out there. I mean, he was definitely top 10, but I would say top 5 in terms of entrance music. Because when those bagpipes went off, man, especially at a SummerSlam or something like that, it was great. Yeah.
I'm going to throw it over to. He would have been 69.
It would have been 69.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Hey, so I know you're too young for this, but do you have any memories of the Hot Rod, Alonso?
The WCW days. That's what I. You know what's funny is I feel like WCW kind of squashed him a little bit when he was there. I feel like they didn't maximize him, but then again, they did that to Bret Hart. They did that to other guys, right? So I feel like that was a bummer because I feel like in my opinion, he would have killed it in the Attitude Era. You know, that would have been the shtick. Like I think of like that program that Austin and Brian Pillman did, like how, they blurred the lines of reality. Like Rowdy Piper could have done something like that, right? But he was great on the mic. Obviously, if you don't know about Piper's Pit, then we have a problem.
Yep. I was going to mention Piper's Pit.
Yeah. I mean, he would have taken Juan into the pit right now for some of the shit that he said, but I digress. But there's no other way to put it. He's a legend of the business. And it's just, I didn't know this. He would have been 69 this year. So he died at 61, if I did my math right.
Yeah, it's one of those sad passings. Babyface, any memories of the Hot Rod?
I hated that dude when he smashed the coconut on Jimmy Snuka's head. But then I got a soft spot for him when, and I know probably Juan, you probably hated this, when the Piper's Pit where Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, when Andre turns heel and this is when Piper's turning babyface, and Andre gets him and he tears the shirt off of Hogan, and then at the end he's all like, "You're bleeding, man. You're bleeding," because he has a little drip of blood on his chest. So that kind of like gave me that soft spot for Piper. But yeah, I mean, I thought he was one of the best. I mean, he never held the WWF title, like the championship. He was just in the Intercontinental title. I think he won like the US championship and stuff, and never the World Heavyweight Championship. So I think they should have gave that to him. But yeah, I mean, he was definitely one of the top guys. And for next time, I want to get. I saw a video the other day of. We got to do our Mount Rushmore of the WWF guys.
Ooh, I can't wait.
So think of that, and we'll put a Mount.
Well, I mean,
Rushmore.
I know who's not on that mountain right now. I can just tell you right now, for one guy, is Hulk Hogan. He's not on there.
Yeah, exactly. We're totally going to gimmick radio now by doing Mount Rushmores. But I will say this: that segment that you're talking about, the Piper's Pit. Piper carried that overacting ham who couldn't even sell. He couldn't even sell Andre ripping the necklace off of the pukester. I mean, God, poor Piper. He had to work overtime to carry that segment because Hogan just look. For me, Roddy Piper was, like Alonso said, he was great on the mic. He was a great personality. Technically, he was not in my cup of tea in terms of wrestling styles. he was a brawler. He was one of those kind of guys where he was not a Bret Hart. He was not a Macho Man Randy Savage. He was not a Kurt Hennig. He wasn't those kind of guys that were technically prolific in the ring and could tell a story through making moves. That being said, his match at WrestleMania, and I think this was no accident, at WrestleMania 8 with Bret Hart, to me, was his high point in terms of a wrestling match. The other thing that I loved about Piper was he would always give a fuck you to Hogan and would refuse to lay down to Hogan in the WWF days. But of course, he gets to WCW and Hogan must pose. It's not going to work for me, brother. And Piper ends up losing to Hogan in WCW. But the fact that Piper would always stand up to him in WWF and he never gave Hogan a clean victory, I think was good for business because I think they needed that. So it was just interesting. I came across it. It was his birthday, so I wanted to pay tribute to Piper. And like Jason said, wrestling only counts up until about 2000. After that, it gets a little foggy for me. But again, I want to satisfy our listeners who do enjoy the wrestling talk and want the wrestling talk.
Before we set everyone loose, the Dodgers have 4 against the Cubs, and they have 3 against Los Piratas de Pittsburgh, all on the road. What do you all foresee with your predictions?
I had them going 3-4.
All right, Jason.
I think they'll split. I think you'll see the Dodgers at about 500 for the next couple of weeks.
So wait, when there's 7 games, they can't split. So of the 4 against the Cachorros and then the 3 against the Piratas, 3. Okay.
Roger.
Roger, you're on mute.
Yeah.
You're on mute, but the suspense was wonderful. I think it really worked well.
Make Rowdy Piper proud.
I'm thinking 3-4 might be as bad as 2-5.
Wow, this might be the first time that I don't.
One or the other, because you're famous for I picked that. Yeah. Come on, we got points on the line here, so you got to go with one or the other. What is your pick?
Both of those. They're both viable.
No.
You cannot hedge your bets here, sir.
I'm not going to let you pull this pukester shit.
Also true.
3-4.
I'm also going 3-4. Again, I mean, listen, this isn't a 110 team win or 110 win team. Jesus, English is hard.
Yes,
but it's. I mean, Cody Bellinger is good again. he's hitting bombs again. So I mean, I guess we have that going for. Oh shit, he plays for the Cubs. Never mind.
He got his revenge. He came to Chavez Ravine and he got his revenge.
Well, and they have 3-day games in a row, 4-day games in a row actually, Chicago. So I mean, they'll at least have the scenery to go through. I mean, that would be nice. I'm sorry, they have one night game. They have one night game tomorrow.
And it looks like weather might be an issue, so you might see a doubleheader.
Dang, Chicago being in Chicago, right?
That's right.
Well, Jason, thank you for joining us and humoring us, even though you're a leftist.
Anti-leftite.
Someone just walked into this. They think we were talking about politics for the last hour. You just walked in and said, "Thank you for being a leftist."
Wait until they hear this podcast.
and in the final season of Kershaw, when he's a left-handed reliever, I guess Jason's going to turn on.
I may have to eat my words. You're right about that.
And in the final season of Julio Diaz donning the Dodger blue, like, come on, bro.
Oh God. Okay. We have to have a whole conversation now about left-handed pitchers, but it was fun being here, guys. I appreciate it.
No, thank you for joining us and humoring us. This episode was presented by our partners at BetOnline. Head on over to betonline.ag and use our promo code, which is Believe, BLEAV, and you will receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. I will be putting money on 3 of the 4, 3 wins for the next little bit. But pinch hitting for Alicia Del Valle, who I don't know where she is, but she's somewhere exotic where we aren't. Jason Barquero, and it's your boys Alonso y Juan and the babyface gimmick and this guy Roger. We are the Bleed Los Podcast. Thanks for listening, and please stop lefty hate because we have feelings too.
It's the Shohei Ohtani show.